Hey everyone, welcome back to KC3D Sparks. Today we are going to be creating a writing desk for one of our nicer rooms. If you guys haven't followed me on Instagram yet, I did post the pictures of the printouts of the beds, how they turned out. So make sure you follow me on that. I have the link in the description below, or you can just search KC3D Sparks and I should come right up. Before we jump right in, we are going to go make sure that in your Steam tab you have whatever unit you want to work in. I'm going to be working in inches, and I changed the scale of my grid floor to 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to hop over to a clean layer. And what we're going to do, we are going to start with a cube. So Shift A, mesh, cube. Obviously that's way too big. And for this desk, we're going to start a little bit differently. I know I've done tables and things in the past, and they have like pretty generic legs, that kind of thing. This leg's going to be curved, and we're actually going to start with it first to make it a little bit easier, and then we'll extrude up into the surface area and the backing and all that fun stuff afterward. So to start with the leg, we're just going to size it down a lot, and we're just going to use the grid instead of trying to figure out what dimensions we want manually this way. I'm going to go ahead and just tab into edit mode and go into front view. Now for the regular desk itself, I want it to be between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch tall, because the desk, like the surface area itself, will be at 1/2 an inch. So I'll have the legs starting from down here, and then it'll end or maybe around here, because then we're going to have some drawers in between the leg and the surface area. So our surface area will be ending on the red x-axis here, and then we'll extrude up, and we'll have one of those backings with some like drawers and things like that with a side. We'll just have a little bit of fun. Start off, I'm going to go into top view, and we're going to rotate this 45 degrees so that way we can get this kind of in the shape that we want. And what we also want to do is grab this corner over here, and we're going to make that flush with this. So you can either grab it, or actually what would be easier is grabbing this and hitting SX0, and that will make it completely flush. And then I'm just going to bring this back over to the Y axis. So I'm going to go back into front view, and now that we have that, I'm just going to deselect everything with A again, and I'm going to do Control R here. I just want to bring this out, start getting that curve, but I want this part to be like that. I'm going to grab this bottom here, do E to extrude, just hit escape so it stays, bring it down like that. Probably going to bring that out a little bit too. E to extrude again. I'm just going to go ahead and bring that all the way down. We're going to do Control R. So we're going to grab everything except for these back two. We're going to hit E to extrude, and then S, Shift Z to size it out. And then we'll bring that like that. So that would be kind of like a foot. And let's go ahead and add our subdivision surface modifier. So just go to your modifiers tab, subdivision surface. I'm going to crank it up to 3. And see how the basic shape is coming out. I'm going to pull this out some more, make our foot a little bit more dramatic. I want to grab these, pull them out, pull this out to make that thicker and more dramatic. More like that, nice exaggerated curve. I think that probably looks pretty good. And one of the things you want to make sure when you're kind of feeling out how you want your leg to be shaped, I am making sure that this top part here stays flush, because this is where we're going to start having our table. It's gonna have like a decorative piece here where the legs are connected, and then it'll extrude up into the drawers. So make sure this stays nice and flat so that way it has a good connection to the table itself. Maybe pull that out just a smidge. I like that. It's a cool shape, but what I also want to do is probably make this, pull that in and maybe out a little bit. And I also want these edges to be sharpened. Oh, except I forgot these. So we're just doing Shift E to sharpen those. And if you want, you don't have to sharpen them all the way. So I'm gonna see what it looks like a little bit softer. Maybe more like that. Looks better. And I want to do the same thing to this one as well. Sharp, but not completely sharp. Definitely a little bit less than this. So it's subtle, but still has more of a crisper edge to it. I like that. And the reason I also did it separately is to make sure that these edges themselves in the center here don't get sharpened. So I think that's a good starting shape. I wouldn't mind actually creasing this one some, not all the way, just a little bit to give it more separation. And if you want, you could even bring this up, give it more of a rounded edge to it. All right, so I think our leg is looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and start working on the table. Obviously, you could still keep working on this if you wanted to add in more detail or something like that, but I'm pretty happy with the shape of this. So I'm just gonna leave it as is. So I'm gonna hit A to select everything, and we're gonna rotate this 45 degrees again, because this is the angle that it's actually gonna be attached to the table. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out and make sure you're still in edit mode so that way your origin point stays in the center. So looking at our grid, we have, I don't want my table to be a full 1/2 inch deep, so I'm probably gonna leave it in a little bit, maybe around here. And then for the height, we wanna go ahead and pull our leg down to here. And we could even size it up. So I'm gonna hit S and Z and just gonna stretch it out a little bit to be about there. So our decorative piece that it's attached to will be here. Pull the drawers up. Actually, I could make this even a little bit taller. I think about there looks good. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do add modifier mirror. So we get our other leg, but we also want to have legs in the back as well. So we're going to do Y and do clipping. And maybe you want to do this a little bit bigger, maybe more like that. Because since it's going to have like those drawers and stuff in the back, we want this desk to be kind of deep. So you could go full 1/2 inch if you wanted. That's totally up to you. I'm going to do close to it with the legs, but we'll see how it looks in a second. What we want to do to get the surface filled in, I'm going to go ahead and grab that face there. So obviously you could just go to faces, select the face. We're gonna do, actually we're gonna grab both faces, sorry, not just the one. E to extrude, just hit escape, and we're gonna go into top view. And we're just gonna drag it all the way. But before we get to that, we want to do X faces to make sure it's a whole. Grab those vertices, nothing extra. And we can go ahead and just have it like that. And then we'll also do E to extrude, pull it this way, X, delete that face, grab that loop and pull it back. Now you'll notice you get these weird shapes in the center. It's not connecting properly. That's because we have these in the wrong order. So you want to go ahead and hit this arrow to change the order of the modifiers. So the mirror is always on top and then your subdivision surface modifier. Okay, so now that we have that all connected, make sure as long as your clipping is on, if you select everything and you grab it it's not going to separate. So since we have all of that, we can go ahead and we don't need to apply it yet. Well, let's go ahead and apply it actually. So tab out of edit mode, and we're going to apply our mirror modifier. Tab back in. And the reason we're doing this is, like I think I mentioned earlier, we want to do the 4-way mirror modifier to get all 4 legs set in, and then we only need to mirror it on one side. We'll model this side. Go into top view again, deselect everything, Z for wireframe, select all these vertices on the side, X to delete. Perfect. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Add modifier, whoops, mirror. And it's only on the X, but we still want to have our clipping, and we need to make sure it's on top of the subdivision surface modifier. So now that we have that all built up, what we can do is just go into front view, make sure nothing's selected, Z for wireframe, and we'll go ahead and select these top vertices. I'm going to hit E to extrude and just hit escape, and I'm going to size that in a little bit. Something like that, just to give this a nice little edge. Then I'm going to do E to extrude again and pull that up. And maybe about there. Kind of on this second smaller grid line. Then we're going to hit E to extrude. And we're going to size that out this time instead, because I want our tabletop surface to extrude out from our drawers a little bit. E to extrude and pull that up all the way to the x-axis. Before we do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and sharpen this edge loop here because I want that to be nice and crisp, and I also want this one. Sharpen that. Now this part down here, I'm going to sharpen just a little bit like we did with this edge here. Sharpen this side a little bit more than we did, just to get these a little bit more even without having to add any geometry in. Cool. And of course you could add in some cool designs like maybe leaves or something like that into here, but since my printer isn't quite so detailed, I'm just going to leave it as is. Or what I think I might do is add one loop here and maybe size it out to give it more of a bevel, but we will have to move this back into place to not affect the leg at all. That looks good. Give it more of a rounded look. Oh, and I do want to sharpen this edge on the underside. Okay, there we go. So now that we have all of that built out, and you could also sharpen this edge if you wanted. I'm going to sharpen it just a tad, not all the way. I'm going to do it right about there. Okay. So before we get into the tops of the writing desk, I'm going to go ahead and add in our drawer. So I'm just going to model the one here, and the other one will model automatically on the other side. So what I'll do is grab this face here, and I'm going to uncheck clipping for now. Go into front view, and I'm just going to hit E to extrude and size that down. And before I go any further, I'm going to recheck clipping before I forget. Now, I actually kind of don't mind that size. I think I might size it up a little bit, size it down along the X, and I am going to go ahead and just sharpen it completely. Now, I'm not doing anything drastic to this drawer. I'm pretty much adding a simple little like framed out beveled edge. I don't know the proper term for it, but basically we're going to do E to extrude, go into side view, pull this out, dramatic enough so when you print it, you'll be able to see it. E to extrude. Now I know we'll have to fix it so it's not a circle, but we'll do that in a second. Size that in again. You'll notice that it's still going a lot more along the X than the Z axis. So you'll want to make sure that you kind of eyeball it. So we'll do S and Z. I think I'd like it about that thickness. So we'll have to size back up along the X to make it kind of match as best we can. probably about there. Then we're going to do E to extrude again and just pull that all the way back. Okay. Now what we'll have to do, oops, grab all of that, Shift E, and actually you'll notice that this part's still funky, so you'll want to make sure that those edges are sharpened as well. Okay. Now the other part is I wanted this to actually be beveled, so we'll go ahead and add a loop, or you know, kind of rounded. I don't want it to be completely sharp like this. So we're gonna pull this out, and then we're probably gonna draw it all back in a little bit. So border select these. Let me pull that back out a little bit. Be more like that. Perfect. Now I'm gonna wait to add the drawer pull until after we have our top up, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to add in some geometry up here. So hopefully once I have more geometry from up here added, I can just use that what's already applied onto here and just reshape it instead of trying to add in more now. So we'll revisit that in a moment. And okay, so for the top that we're going to be extruding, we do have to go ahead and add a loop here, and we want to make sure actually we're going to leave a little bit of a lip on the side first. So I'm going to pull this kind of close to the edge, and we're going to go ahead and add another loop. Maybe about that thick will do. I don't want it all the way to where the leg is. Probably starting about there. So it'll be this face, this face. We're gonna go ahead and pull this out, because this is where our drawers are going to be coming out of. And we're also going to go ahead and pull this back to try and make it match this here. So that looks good. So I'm going to switch to the face view. I'm going to grab this, this, and that. However, I don't want this to be at an angle. So let's go ahead and fix that first. So what we can do is pull that over. To match like that. Perfect. Okay, so go back to face select, and we're going to do all of those faces. I'm going to go into front view and do E to extrude. I'm going to pull that up, and I probably want my drawers maybe about that tall, and I also don't want this to keep extruding. I think I want it right about there, and then it's going to kind of curve up. So we'll deselect that face, and then we're going to hit E to extrude again and pull that up. You could pull it all the way up to here if you want. I'm probably going to leave it about here for now, and I can always make it taller later, or you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and pull it all the way up. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm kind of thinking I want this a little bit deeper. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these two faces and pull them out some more. Now the thing is, I'm going to have this deeper than the center, so I'm going to go ahead and do Control R, do that. I'm going to do Control R, left click, right click again, and what I want to do is I want to grab this face, and these are going to kind of sink back, but it'll make it kind of like a curved look. So more like that. Cool. So we'll have kind of a curved thing going on for our drawers and the shelves. For these themselves, we're going to have to hit E to extrude. And we're going to size them along the Z-axis a little bit. And then pull it down to make it match here. We're going to go into the side view, hit the wireframe view, and just pull it back. And these are going to be some shelving above the drawers. So I'm going to switch back to the vertex select mode and start sharpening this out so we can figure out what all is going on. So Shift E. We will need this a little bit taller. So what we'll have to do is grab this top here, hit E to extrude, and pull that up. So we can always pull this back down. So it's not crazy tall, it's more like that. Since, however, this is going to be kind of small, I'm concerned 2 drawers stacked on top of each other here and here won't be very clear. So I'm just going to make them 2 larger drawers and then have this kind of match. So I'm going to have those like that. Obviously, if you'd rather go ahead and do them stacked on top of each other, go for it. But for this design, I'm going to go ahead and just do the single drawers across. Okay. So basically what we're going to do is kind of the same thing we did here. So I'm going to do face select, E to extrude, and since they're all different sizes, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do them separately. So size that down. Make sure you're in front view so you can get a good look. And then I think that's about a decent size. It's a little, go ahead and size that back up so we take advantage of most of the space here. And then we're going to do E to extrude again, size in, you size in a little bit more until we're happy with this size, and then size back up along the X to make it match as best we can. That looks good. And then what we can do is just grab that loop, E to extrude, and pull that out. And then go in here and sharpen everything. Okay, so back into front view, and still didn't grab these edges though, so we want to make sure those do get sharpened like that. And I want to do like I did before and add a loop in here to give it kind of more of a rounded edge. Perfect. So I'm just going to do that 2 more times. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now we have all of those, basically looks like picture frames built out. I want to go ahead and start adding in the knobs. So I think drawer pulls would look better than knobs themselves, and they would probably be a little bit easier to add in as well. So what we're going to do is Control R. We're going to do it 2 that way, and then for each of these we're gonna do 2 that way as well, 2 vertically I should say. All right, so we'll just go ahead, and what we can do now, we have a ton of geometry down here. I'm gonna go ahead and add 2 horizontal down here as well, since we'll need to get to that in a second. We'll start with this one. Gonna go ahead and just do, actually we're gonna need 2 more loops that way, and one more horizontal. Go ahead and pull that down to about there. And we're going to size these along the x-axis to be like that. Now what we'll do is grab these faces here, go in a side view, hit Z, E to extrude, and pull that out to about there. That could probably be a little bit more exaggerated, maybe about there instead. And then what we can do is just sharpen the outer edge of it. And then I'll also probably sharpen these two edges here. Oops, I missed one. Thought I grabbed that one. And it's still being a little weird. You'll notice this kind of like flap here. We'll have to grab this edge and that edge and do Shift E to pull that down. Perfect. I like the look of that a lot better than a drawer pull. I think that'll be a little bit nicer of a touch for our desk. I think that's what they usually have. I think it's not always, probably personal preference. We'll go ahead, since that one's rectangular, we'll go ahead and make this one a little bit more narrow to kind of match the drawer. So we already have our bottom line, so at least we can make sure they are consistent in size that way. So I want to go ahead and pop one there, pop another vertical here, and just grab these and size along the X to try and get it. Oh, except sizing along the X doesn't quite work, so we'll have to size along it and then we'll have to rotate them. Since we're at an angle here. There we go. Now that's flat again. Still not quite where we need it though. Size along the X a little more. There we go. Perfect. Grab these faces again, just hit E to extrude, go in a top view. We're just gonna grab them and pull them out. Looks like I made it come almost all the way out. So grab this and pull that out too. Perfect. And then sharpen everything again. So I'm pretty happy with this writing desk. I hope you guys enjoyed following along with the tutorial. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the modifiers for now. Oh, I forgot to change the name. But I will duplicate it and add on the modifiers to the duplicate. And we'll go ahead and move this and see how it looks in. Okay, now that we brought it over to the room, I like how it looks. I think it looks pretty good. Obviously, it's not going to go where the bed would be. I just brought it here because it's a little bit easier to look at and compare to the height of the end tables. I did resize it a little bit to make it fit better because these ones are 1/2 inch tall. So obviously I brought this up to about this section itself to about 7.75, so 3/4 inch, and then now it's about 1 inch tall itself. So I just resized it after placing it and I'm pretty happy with it. So let me know if you guys have any questions or requests for next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and hopefully I'll post a picture of this printout sometime this week on Instagram, and I'll see you guys next week.